Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
And we're twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and give commentary on our favorite subjects. Welcome to our cantina. Grab a drink and settle in as we set course for realities beyond our own.
Welcome in, everyone.
Dude, this week we're featuring not matching anything. Your hat is backwards. You're wearing a t-shirt. My hat is forwards. I'm wearing a hoodie, and I'm drinking slippery water.
Slippery water? Is that what is slippery water? Liquid
Brought
IV?
to you by Liquid IV. Because it makes it totally changes. Slippery. It's like it breaks up the surface tension of water.
It does. Liquid IV, we would happily take a sponsorship. Shoot us them dollars. Yes. Welcome everybody to our episode. Today we are going to be discussing The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 5, Entombed. But first we're going to start off with our starter questions. So make sure you guys stick around. We've got lots of fun pieces of news for you guys at the end of the episode as well. So first of our starter questions is going to be, what have you been watching recently?
Your yasses are so embarrassing. Anyway, Nate Bargatze's special on Amazon is really funny. He's got like a really strong deadpan humor that I really enjoy. He's actually not that dirty. He actually has his daughter in the audience as he's doing this special, and it's really good. It's relatively clean, but still very humorous. And that's something that we see comedians really struggle with, is they kind of put a shock value into their comedy to try to get more laughs. Nate Bargatze does a good job of just being straight up funny.
Love it. Love to hear it. I always love a good comedy special. I have been watching The Last of Us. Oh my goodness. Wow.
So we're probably gonna review The Last of Us, correct? I mean, yes. We can't not. We're a gaming channel, a gaming podcast. It's gonna happen.
Absolutely.
The first episode is 2 hours long. My wife and I are totally caught up. But like, I have so many notes. There's so much detail, and not only just is it an amazing video game adaptation, but it's great film.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much. There's so much like dynamic interest and foreshadowing in like these literary devices, or I guess they would be cinematic devices. I don't really know, but it's amazing. Pedro Pascal is in.
He does a fantastic job. Continues to win over the hearts of just everybody. So he does a great job. I don't want to talk more about this because we are planning on doing a review episode, but holy cow. It's been a thrill ride so far. I'm so excited. I haven't been this excited for a show to premiere its episodes since Andor. And then before Andor, couldn't tell you how excited I was for different shows to come out. So
it's so good.
It's been a good time.
Awesome. What games have you been playing?
So I've been playing a decent amount of Call of Duty Mobile. Since writing this, I also have been playing a decent amount of Minecraft as well. I started a Minecraft Live series on YouTube, so you can catch me over on Finley and Theo Entertainment and on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 to 9:30. The start time is questionable because it really depends on how the dogs, the namesake of the channel, are behaving. But I've been doing that. And I've been going back and playing through Mass Effect 2. I've been playing around with some ideas for some different YouTube series that I might put into production. But right now I'm really limited by my hardware. So for example, right behind me, you can see my old Xbox. This is a Gen 1 refurbished Xbox One. So,
wow.
And it only has the capacity to play the games I want, is because it has an additional 1 terabyte external hard drive attached to it.
Okay.
And my PC is running a 980 graphics card. So I'm literally in the Stone Ages for hardware. So
ladies and gentlemen, this man has a Patreon page that you're more than welcome to subscribe to, so he can upgrade some of this stuff and actually be able to play games with me.
And make content for everybody. That's really the important thing. But
this man makes so much content. He edits our entire podcast. He edits and produces his own podcast called the Healthy Humans Podcast, which is really helpful. Anytime I listen to the Healthy Humans Podcast, I'm like, man, I should do like lifting and like different things. And because I've been really turned off of lifting because I have like a lot of sports injuries.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm like, it's almost like, I don't want to say it's PTSD because that's not really appropriate to people who actually have PTSD, but I'm like, I avoid those things.
I have grown to love lifting even from sports injuries because my education gave me an outlet to go through movements that no longer cause pain and actually help
Mm,
prevent pain. And that's been my biggest thing. And I actually specialize with the people I work with individually. Most of them are like really what I consider kind of like broken individuals. They're people who have current and persistent and severe injuries or diagnoses,
mhm.
things like that. Those are the people I work with. And they're really fun because they get really happy when they find out, oh, we just needed to make a few modifications to the way you did a squat or a deadlift, and then they can start doing these like really fun big lifts and figure out how strong they are. So
That's
that
awesome.
podcast has taken a little bit of a pause, but I'm hoping to get back to it eventually. It's a ton of work. it's
Yeah.
it's so much work.
I see how
um,
much research you put into it. It's a lot. It's a lot.
yeah, doing this podcast, that podcast, and my streaming work is a decent amount. But I think because I've basically switched away from streaming on Twitch and now I'm streaming on YouTube, I don't have to necessarily go through and re-edit all of my Twitch streams to put them on YouTube. I just like leave the live video up there. And so I'm really excited about that. That's going to save me a ton of time and I
Mhm.
might continue to do that. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wish you the best.
Thanks.
And it's not a horrible thing either that I can load YouTube on my work computer and not Twitch.
You bet. What games have you been playing?
So I recently just traded in my. Uh, I recently just traded in all of my Xbox stuff. Controllers. I had two consoles, including a Generation One Xbox One, and then the Xbox One X to get a Xbox Series X. I did get the refurbished model because I'm trying to save money wherever I can. My wife and I are trying to hopefully buy a house or something in the next year. So naturally, I spent a couple $100 on an Xbox. uh, but no, I haven't actually played it yet. I haven't played a single game on it yet. My wife's been playing Hogwarts Legacy, which was actually a gift I got her for Valentine's Day. And then I hope to delve into Atomic Heart, which looks really good. And I'm really excited for the console release of Dark Tide and also Space Marine 2.
I can't tell you how excited I am for Dark Tide and Space Marine 2 because those games are not going to run on my PC. There's no chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I am slated to get a new Xbox probably before I get a new PC. I would need to spend a lot more money on a PC than I
Yeah.
would an Xbox to play the games that I want to play. So,
This is an unpopular opinion, but PC Master Race folks need to hear this. First, they need to hear is maybe just chill out a little bit, just a touch.
got him.
But also, dollar for dollar, a PC is not a better investment than an Xbox.
If you're looking at it just from a gaming perspective, you're 100% right.
Yeah, dollar for dollar, it is more efficient to buy an Xbox, especially since like my Generation One Xbox One, like the launch model, it was still working.
Yeah, mine still works. Works great.
I
Can't
had
stream on it, but it's great.
yeah, it doesn't have quite that much power, but like you can't stream on your computer either. So
Yeah, I do some pretty clever workarounds to be able to stream on my computer, which I will
yeah,
not go into because
that's not why we're here.
that's not why we're here.
Anyway, we could do a whole episode on why consoles are never going to die, and I could really break out my math prowess and your math prowess too. We both have a pretty strong math background in uh, our two backgrounds. You came from kinesiology, which had a lot to do with statics and motion. Well, so does mechanical engineering, which is what I did. I took like a whole year of statics and dynamics. So
We should
there,
just start making exoskeletons. I think between the two of us, we could maybe make an Iron Man suit.
I'm not a very good builder.
Just kidding, everybody. Let's get into the next one. What kind of hobby work have you gotten done?
Oh my gosh. We are 10 minutes into the episode and haven't talked about Bad Batch. So we're gonna keep moving. I am cutting off the little arms of my Terminators. I don't know if you can see this. So I've done a couple different things. We have a 3-player Warhammer game coming up on March 11th, which we're going to have to plan our podcast around because we're not going to be able to record that day. But
That's all right.
with the buffs to the Space Marine faction, and specifically the Terminators, I ended up buying 3D printed resin melee upgrades for my Terminators. I have 20 of them, so I'm running a 2,000 point Dark Angel army with 20 Deathwing Terminators in it. If that sounds cool and awesome, it is. If it sounds dirky and nordy,
Dirky and nerdy. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Skills 10 out of 10.
Killed it. Yeah, it's also super nerdy, and I can't wait to try it out. It came with like these little thunder hammers. They're so cute. Space Marines love being called cute in the hyper masculine world of Warhammer 40k. They got their little armies. They're so cute.
Love it.
Anyway, I am burning through daylight here.
I just got a bunch of new models, and I have 38 models ready for priming, ready for painting, with another 200,000 ready and on the way.
That is not what the Kaminoans sound like.
Something like that. I have a ton of models that need painted. I have a ton of models that are built and primed, but not painted. So I have probably close to 50 models that I need to put paint on.
Yeah.
And then it will be ready. It will be considered tabletop ready. So very excited about that. All right, we've done our starter questions. Boom, bam. Everyone's like caught up. This is your Bad Batch spoiler warning. Stop now if you haven't watched episode 5 of season 2, Entombed. This is your last chance. Let's go into it. Andrew, start us off with your rating out of 10.
Goodbye. Yeah, so my sort of caveat with the Bad Batch, I don't think a single episode of Bad Batch has been better than the worst episode of Andor. That's how I'd like to restart this sentence. That's how I'd like to really put in my ratings out of perspective, is that I'm not comparing my ratings for these episodes of Bad Batch to themselves. I'm comparing these episodes of Bad Batch to all Star Wars content and really just all TV. I would give most of the episodes of The Last of Us either a 9 or a 10.
100%. Super compelling.
Mm-hmm. And Bad Batch just isn't at the same level of compelling television that this is. So me saying that this is, for instance, this is a 6 out of 10 is not a diss. It's just an acknowledgement of where this is at. I did like this more than the previous episode, but it also was a filler episode and wasn't super pumped to rewatch it. I ended up really enjoying rewatching it anyway. And Wanda Sykes is always a win.
Yeah, absolutely. I was incredibly enthralled throughout this episode. I really enjoyed the treasure hunter genre ever since like Indiana Jones came out. So I was really excited that this episode was taking that path, even though it was a filler episode. However, I really didn't like how the episode ended. I think that actually ruined it for me because they just ended up destroying this unknown war machine. What come on, guys, like you just blew it up and like no one gets to learn from it. Ancient technologies are such a great way to deepen the lore of Star Wars and this universe, and I felt like they really fell short on this one. I think this is a big missed opportunity for the fans to give them the lore that we really desperately want. I gave this episode a 5 out of 10
for sure. And did you think the actual structural mechanics of this giant walker, did you think it was powered by a force imbued object, or is actually an ancient technology free from the force?
I thought the heart of the mountain, specifically giant kyber crystal.
Yeah,
100%.
Also, as soon as it came on screen, I was like, yes, the Arkenstone.
Yeah. Also, I will say, this is a little plug for anyone who played the old KOTOR games. One feature that we got to see in Knights of the Old Republic, the video game, was that they had different essentially energy producing crystals that you could use throughout the game, which was super cool. For example, a Cryet Dragon Pearl. So one thing is I had mentioned here just previously is that the heart of the mountain is a giant kyber crystal. It could be a different type of crystal, and there is a small precedent for energy producing crystals in the Star Wars universe outside of kyber already. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, it was kind of like why would I use a kyber crystal when I can go kill this dragon and put its heart into my lightsaber?
Actually, it basically put its poop into your lightsaber. I don't know how pearls are made, but I'm pretty sure it's like a waste product of some sort.
Why are you like this?
I can't help it. What was your favorite episode or favorite moments from this episode?
Jeez Louise. I mean, obviously, it's the giant dinosaur laser robot. Like,
dinosaurs.
It was so cool. You're like, oh, they're in a weird cave or whatever, and they're like, psych, it's a giant stone mech. I really like when Star Wars really does this thing where it delves into non-traditional technologies and things like that. We see that, or even like beasties, things like that, the supernatural. I think it's fun.
Absolutely.
It's just when they dive into droid-specific episodes that I'm like, this is boring. Like episodes of the Clone Wars where it's C-3PO and R2-D2 just dicking around doing something. It's so boring.
Droid episodes are pretty hard to watch usually.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
hard to make it compelling.
But then we also see Star Wars delve into the supernatural, which if this giant robot was powered by a kyber crystal, which I believe it is, I don't think it's an actual mechanical technology. I think it's totally powered by the Force, or
that would be so cool.
Or Force energy, rather, captured into what is a giant kyber crystal. I mean, we see that like the Death Star is just a bunch of kyber crystals pointed in at each other with energy flowing through it.
Mm-hmm.
But we see other examples of this, like the Gods of Mortis, which was an interesting arc in the Clone Wars. I don't really know the point of it, other than to show that like Anakin is the chosen one, or it foreshadows Darth Vader, basically. But then we also see the World Between Worlds, which is one of the most interesting and pivotal introductions to the Star Wars universe, and I think is going to create a Star Wars multiverse, if it hasn't already. I don't really think we have the time to go into it right now, but I think the moment that Ezra Bridger saves Ahsoka from being killed by Darth Vader, when he like reaches through the portal and like yanks her out and like basically pulls her into this like limbo space, I think that moment separates us from the reality of where the sequel trilogy exists. I think that's a separate timeline. That's hopeful thinking for sure. But
Very interesting theory.
But I think moving forward, that's where we're going to see Star Wars go. Is it's either going to pursue the far past, which is what we're seeing in the High Republic, or we're going to see the far future. I think the Star Wars Skywalker saga has kind of been played out to its natural conclusion, and they're either going to have to create a branching timeline or just go so far ahead in the future that they can basically just do a soft restart.
Mm-hmm. Or they could do what I've always wanted them to do, and they could start making Old Republic content, because those cinematics are absolutely dank.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The trailers for Star Wars, The Old Republic, the MMO, are better, in my opinion. I'm not saying people who don't agree with this are stupid or anything. It's just my opinion. And I would be more than happy to have a peaceful discourse about it. But I think those trailers and whatever, it's like an hour of footage, is better than like the 9 hours of footage that we got in the sequel films.
It's pretty freaking cool. My favorite part from this episode was definitely the giant brontosaurus, robot brontosaurus that we got. I thought that was super cool.
We call it
Bronte. It was a little bit of a waste because, again, they just blew it up, but I loved how menacing it was, and it basically just had like a death laser that was like, we're just going to kill everything.
Yeah.
It had good world-destroying vibes. I was very excited about it. So I just want to learn more about it.
You'll love to see it.
More.
I was going to say that actually brings me into my next point. I think this giant brontosaurus robot thingy, now known as Bronte, is he's the less known Bronte sister. Um, I think he's going to act as sort of a Chekhov's gun. I think they're going to come back to this planet at some point and find more lost technology that's similar to this. It seems odd that whatever civilization made this robot would just make that and that's it. Typically, when you see a large machine of intense might and just this awe-inspiring power, you see incredible amounts of similar technology and infrastructure around it to produce it. Like, it didn't come out of nowhere, is what I'm saying. Unless like the world
Absolutely.
itself like basically birthed it, like a star forge, which would also be super cool.
There is precedent for that.
Yeah,
I love this. Again, my theory is that the heart of the mountain is a kyber crystal. I
for
think
sure.
that is like going to be the easiest way for them to explain why a giant crystal, which we see many of in the Star Wars universe, is able to power up a giant robot brontosaurus. Excuse me. I hope we see more of this. I think this would be really cool, but this is definitely a filler episode. I don't think the clones are finding their way towards separate paths. Like, I think that was a theory you had mentioned in our previous episode or 2 episodes ago. I think they're all going to stay together, but I do agree that they are building skills, gathering intel and equipment so that they will be used in the season finale, potentially a clone rebellion.
I also think we're ramping up to a clone rebellion, but I do disagree. I think they are going to go their separate paths at some point. I think that's what the Bad Batch series is going to end with, is with the different clones going to separate places, separate occupations, occasionally helping out with the rebellion. I think Omega is going to be just a full-time rebel, just with how we've seen her story progress so far. I think that's probably going to happen, but also maybe with some treasure hunting on the side. That would be kind of cool, because she was super into it. She was like, this is the coolest thing to ever happen. And she lives in a very awesome world.
Yeah, she has a pretty interesting childhood where basically for her going on missions is like an average occurrence.
Yeah.
So
Which that actually brings me into some interesting lore for this episode. Star Wars actually has a really rich history of plundering caves and searching for long forgotten ruins. Most notably, players might remember that this is a key part of your time on Korriban and the what is it, 2001 game Knights of the Old Republic, which you can now play on your phone, because that's the level of technology we are at. You can play one of the best Star Wars games ever made on your phone, which I highly recommend you doing. If you have an Xbox or a PlayStation controller, you can just plug it in and or connect it via Bluetooth and play Knights of the Old Republic. Go do it now!
the future is here.
The future is here!
Absolutely. So sorry, you had some more on there. I didn't know if you were going to go forward or not and read the rest of it. So I'm like,
I got totally derailed and forgot how to read. My vision just goes like this, and I'm like, it's like someone places an aluminum foil cap on my head, and I just ascend to a different level.
you're such a weirdo. So from the different worlds we get to see and the Force Ghosts of Nagasato to the Path Between Worlds, which we mentioned earlier in the episode, the Star Wars universe has a ton of unexplained mysteries. The War Machine did confirm the existence of the Heart of the Mountain, which at the beginning of the episode was very much like a rumor. It was a legend, and it did confirm it, but I think ultimately it did leave us with more questions than answers. I hope that as Star Wars continues to go forward, they start to bring in all of those things that they've already covered, but because Disney decided to be, in its infinite wisdom, decided to be, I don't want to say a bad word, but decided to be jerks and make a Legends and Canon Rift, they now can take everything from Legends. They can bring it back. That is essentially free territory. Like, they can just grab that, bring it in, and say, oh, well, now it's canon, and everyone's going to love it because they're going to be like, oh, sweet, this was also in Legends. I'm here for it. So they don't even have to be original in the lore that they bring back. They just have to bring back old material, and people will be okay with it.
For sure. And I think,
like, just do it.
Here,
do it.
To put a silver lining and a positive spin on the Disney Legend Canon Rift, we have seen that with this was like a social experiment and almost an economic experiment to how this went, because we saw a pretty big split in the fan base. I mean, people are still salty about it. I'm still pretty well seasoned about this. I can't let it go. But we see this as like an economic experiment because Marvel is now trying to soft reboot their universe narratively. With the multiverse, we're seeing different versions of different people. We've now seen both versions of Quicksilver on the screen, one in WandaVision and one in Age of Ultron. And then DC is doing the same thing. They're doing a narrative reboot of their universe in the new Flash movie. And they're not just saying, hey, in a boardroom, we decided to cut the old stuff and now moving forward, that stuff doesn't count, which is pretty cold. And I think that's probably, and that was the problem. That's the move that Disney decided to make. And I don't think it was the right one. I think if they had narratively explained the different material that they were going to come out with, they said, hey, we want to rewrite the story and this is how we're going to do it, that would have been better. Or even just to not even touch the old stuff and not say anything about it, just write new stuff. And as new stuff comes out, it just automatically retcons the old stuff. It takes precedent over it. And that's how you rewrite a new story. It's these soft reboots instead of just taking the material that a not insignificant part of your fan base grew up reading and playing and just saying that doesn't matter anymore.
Agree.
Wasn't the greatest business decision. You've kind of heard me use this example before. So if you've ever had that Parmesan, or sorry, as the Brits would say, Parmesan cheese powder that you can buy from Costco, it's in a jug about yay big. One of the first ingredients is cellulose, which is a filler. And I call it sawdust because sawdust contains a lot of cellulose. It's one of the cells that actually makes wood and plants what they are. It's like a structural part. So I like to say when episodes of Bad Batch come out like this, that it's got a lot of sawdust, or it's completely sawdust. Sawdust percentage of this one, which, I mean, it's probably 100% sawdust because it's complete filler. And as of now, we don't see the implications of what this episode has on the future of the Bad Batch. There's a little bit of character development. We see Omega's interest really peaked in this. We see a little bit of new technology introduced in the Star Wars universe, but it hasn't come back to it. And if it doesn't come back to it, it's going to keep at that 100% sawdust rating. 100% sawdust. Now with more sawdust. And you're not going to see me rate a filler episode probably higher than a 7. Because I'm here for the story. Star Wars has sometimes coasted on its fame and its incredible fan base. We've given crap about the Star Wars fans a little bit, and I just want to apologize for that a little bit. But like, Star Wars has some of the greatest fans ever. Like, we are a fun bunch. I think
absolutely
people call us the fun batch. No, that's stupid.
Nobody says that. Don't worry, guys.
Nobody says that. What was I saying? But
something about the fan base. You coasting on the fan base.
Coasting on the fan base, yes. And with that, we see episodes that aren't as narratively strong as they probably should be if they didn't have that IP to stand on. Andor was really an outlier for Star Wars content because every episode was really strong. I don't think there was any filler episodes. There might have been filler scenes, but it had a very low percentage of sawdust in it.
Correct. Absolutely.
For contrast, we see Mandalorian Season 1 and some of Season 2 have a lot of sawdust in it. And the Book of Boba Fett, basically all cellulose. It is unflavored sawdust sprinkled over the pasta of Boba Fett. What a horrible, horrible image. See, what we did is we took Boba Fett and we put him through a pasta machine. Do you think he would do better as a penne or as a linguine? Meat Getty is really what I'm trying to say.
Oh, all right.
Please make me stop talking.
I'm trying to think of something. We gotta get this guy to shut up. No, I would say my least favorite part of the episode was just the fact that they destroyed the machine. It could have been disabled. These are commandos. They could have figured something out. They could have gained some sort of knowledge about its creators, its purpose, its functionality, but they didn't. And that's where we are. All right, let's get into the news section because we've got some stuff to talk about.
We got some stuff to talk about.
All right, go ahead and lead us off with that first point.
So this isn't really news. This is mostly just an update for Star Wars games. We did one of our first episode on upcoming Star Wars games, and I regret to inform you that there's basically been no update. We have seen that Jedi Survivor still hasn't come out, but it's going to, which is good. And that's the low bar that we are at. We're like, at least it's going to come out. I went onto Quantic Dream's website. They are the developers responsible for Star Wars Eclipse. The company that dropped such a slapping trailer, and we haven't heard anything since their last blog post on December 10th, 2021. That was over a year ago, and we haven't heard a single thing on what's going on. Why? Is it stalled?
14.5 months later.
Is it stalled? Like, how did they have such a good trailer with either being so far back in development or so delayed? I'm like, why? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to release that polished of a trailer and have no news for over a year.
It's a little bit of a conundrum. Hopefully we get something soon. The bright side is we have a ton of Star Wars TV content coming out very, very soon. So this episode 17, is going to drop in just a few days. It's the 25th, 26th. So it's going to drop on February 27th. We record just a few days prior and then a week ahead for the second episode. So the final Mandalorian trailer has finally been released, and people have absolutely analyzed the garbage out of it. So I'm super excited about it. And I'm not saying the trailer is garbage. The trailer is actually fantastic.
It's very
What
good.
we're going to be seeing is it looks like we're going to be following Din on his redemption arc. Because if you guys remember in the last season, he basically gets his title of Mandalorian stripped from him. So it looks like we are actually going to be going back to the planet of Mandalore. And there's a lot of Mandalorians in that trailer. So we're going to see a ton of fun stuff. It's going to be a good time. Moving on to some game news as well that's outside of the Star Wars universe, we have now gotten news that we have 2 of our 3 playable factions that have been revealed for the upcoming RTS Stormgate. So our first playable faction is going to be the Human Resistance. So classic humans. I'm not going into a ton of detail because there's not a ton known yet, but this is the same company that came out with StarCraft. So having 3 factions to start out playing.
That's actually not true. Blizzard is not developing Stormgate. However, a significant portion of the developers that worked on StarCraft 2 have moved to this new studio and now are working on Stormgate. So it is the spiritual successor to StarCraft 2, but not the actual sequel.
Yes, correct. Blizzard is not making Stormgate. Sorry about that. I misspoke. The
I think
second
it's Frost
faction,
Giant.
something like that. The second faction we've got is the Infernal Hosts, so we're going to be getting kind of a demon army, which anyone who plays Warhammer is probably going to be super excited about this. Let's go. Demons of Chaos, yeah! So super excited about that. And then we have one unconfirmed faction. A lot of people are kind of speculating this is going to be the spiritual successor, as you so eloquently said, of the Protoss. It's going to be something that's
For sure.
alien, but like technology based, and is going to be just a good rounding out of the three factions. So super excited about that.
But will the aliens have mouths? That's really what the people are asking for. And gosh, I hope to see Donnie Vermillion in the next one, or at least the voice actor who did him.
If Donnie Vermillion comes back, even if it's like a joke, I will riot. Something will get burned.
He's so annoying. He's the most annoying character in StarCraft 2. We play a lot of the co-op, and he's like a news reporter who heckles you the whole time. Also, any game where I can play it and say I'm doing the Lord's work because I'm killing demons is a game that I can get behind. Like playing Doom Eternal was so fun because it's like this heavy metal shooter, ultra violent, and my wife is like, wow, this game is really violent. I'm like, yeah, but I'm doing the Lord's work. As I just rip the eye out of like one of those demon hosts.
You're like, it's okay, I promise. This is good for everyone. Yeah, crazy. We also, our last bit of news, we got a patch on February 15th, so 10 days ago from the time we were recording this, for Halo Infinite. They came out with a bunch of different patches because some of the weapons were just a little bit broken in a few different ways. So, for example, the accuracy of the sniper rifle has been increased when firing without zooming in. The explosion radius for the frag grenade has been reduced slightly. Apparently, it was too big. And the ranked arena playlist and HCS, each weapon rack will now be set to a red rack, quote, say after the weapon is picked up. Dropping a weapon and swapping between weapons now takes the same amount of time. This is important because people were dropping weapons instead of just switching to basically get an edge on reload times because they didn't want to reload. They wanted to switch weapons and be able to get a new weapon faster. So that has been done. So that has been fixed so they are the same speed. Rapidly firing a plasma pistol or the battle rifle will no longer result in the weapon jamming and not firing on every pull of the trigger. Players are now less likely to experience a looping, unable to connect to Fireteam error message while joining or playing a custom game browser section.
That's
and
always
finally,
nice.
The appropriate subtraction and addition symbols now appear whenever players lose or gain CSR during ranked matches.
Gotcha.
So those are all pulled from the patch notes. So if you guys are curious on more about that, you guys could go look up the Halo Infinite patch. I believe that is just on the Waypoint website. I should have included a link when I wrote all these down, but I did not, and I wrote these notes about a week ago. So
that's perfect because I don't know how to read, so I really appreciate you recapping that for me. Those kids would be so mad if they could read. One of my favorite Simpsons memes of all time.
You mean King of the Hill?
Actually, it's also Arthur as well. Oh, it is King of the Hill.
Nerd! Got him. Bam!
I would like to put in my resignation as from this podcast. Just thank you so much for everyone who's been listening. This will be my last entrance because I've been so well got and I have been such an idiot that I don't deserve to be here anymore. Goodbye, Internet. I will be canceling my Xfinity subscription shortly, and you will never hear from me again.
All right, guys. So I guess this is a solo podcast now. It was good knowing you. No, he's going to stick around, guys, but guys, give him some flack in the comments for that. If you guys made it to this point in the episode and you hear that, I want you guys to put into the comments, just like comment Bobby Hill, and that's it. Just comment Bobby Hill in the comments. And I'll love you guys forever. No, that way we know you guys got to the end of the episode and Andrew has to relive this every single time he gets that notification for a comment. It was Bobby Hill.
No,
Bobby Hill.
Comment, Bobby Hill. Dang it, Bobby.
Dang it, Bobby. All right, guys, let's outro this out. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Andrew is going to be back for our next episode, so don't worry. We'll revive him. He'll come back. He'll get a chance for redemption. best way to support the podcast here, guys, is first of all, listen. If you get to this point in the episode, again, clown on Andrew for not knowing his memes, but also make sure you guys like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel here, guys. We have been putting a ton of work on the back end, making all of these episodes and these different scripts and things. We're doing a ton of research, ton of writing, and this is 2 full-time workers who are doing this. So we really want this to blow up so we can put more time, more effort, more money into this so we can get a better product out for you. You guys can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, all those different places. Search Talk About Tatooine. You guys are going to find us there. Make sure you guys enjoy the rest of your day. We hope to see you guys soon. And until then, may the Force be with you.
Close your eyes.